Okay. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. My name's Otis Landerholm, and I'm an immigration attorney, and I'm grateful to work with immigrants from all over the world. We work out of our law firm in Oakland, California, and welcome to today's episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Today, my theme is talking about Trump's latest immigration updates. So tune in, welcome, thank you for being here. And as people are coming in, remember that the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. Okay? Today our theme is Trump's latest immigration updates. And so I just want to get people updated on some of the announcements that have come through this week. And as always, hey, do you want to get a green card? Do you want to come out of the shadows? Do you want to at least see what options you have or what the best strategy is or understand your rights or understand what you would do in an immigration emergency, whatever the situation is? Because if you want that, go for it. I'd love to help you with it. My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years. We'd love for your case to be one of them. Okay? And so thanks for being here. And whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, like really thanks to each of you and welcome to this episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. All right? I'm recording this. It's the end of February of 2025. Trump has been back in office for just over 1 month. And there's been a lot of changes that have happened in the last month, right? The Lake and Riley Act was signed into law, making many immigrants who just have been arrested for various things, no convictions required, etc., makes many immigrants in that situation subject to what we call mandatory detention. And so that's happening. ICE is getting moving with its mass deportation efforts, right? They're working to arrest over 1,200 individuals every day, which is crazy. This week, the Senate and now most recently the House have approved Trump's budget for the deportation efforts, which is like, that's a lot of money, folks, that they're going to put into building additional detention facilities and putting military down at the border. And anyway, lots of dollars are going into increasing the deportation plan. And this week, there were a couple of announcements that just, for me, seem ridiculous. One of which, without judgment, just saying what the announcement is, Trump announced a new quote-unquote gold card, which you may have seen it in the news, basically $5 million to buy a green card is how I interpret it, which for me it's ridiculous because there's already an EB-5 program in place. Like, I don't know if he understands that or if he's aware of that or if, but so for me, it's not necessary at all and not helpful at all. But it's like, okay, let's spend all kinds of money on deporting people who are paying taxes, who are here, who are contributing to our economy and our society. So let's spend all kinds of money to deport people that don't even need to be deported. We're not talking about national security risks here, right? And in the meantime, let's gain some money by just selling green cards randomly to people who are, millionaires who can just buy them like that. I mean, anyway, for me, it's like Trump, all of your administration, you got to know that people are contributing to a society, even if people can contribute, even if they aren't millionaires, right? Like, hello, right? So anyway, I just wanted to. That's going on, and then the most recent requirement that was announced just yesterday. Maybe the announcement came out the day before yesterday, and then some explanations. It was added to the website yesterday of USCIS. Is a registry requirement. Did you guys see this in the news? All right. Everybody who's tuning in right now, welcome. Thank you for being here. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. This week, there was a registry requirement announced. Has not yet taken effect, but it has been announced. All right. And what this is saying is that they will require all immigrants who did not enter with a visa or who did not enter with parole or with any type of lawful inspection or admission to register once they've been in the U.S. for more than 30 days, as long as they're over 14 years of age. Okay? And so, and what it's saying is that people who don't do that can be charged of a misdemeanor criminal offense and can be fined. All right, fined up to $1,000 is my understanding of what has been stated. Okay, as I'm talking about this, if you have questions, please feel free to submit your questions. I'll do my best to answer them right here, right now, live. Okay. So talking about this registration, I want to talk about who it will affect and who it won't affect. All right? So who it will affect is everyone who has never been, quote unquote, registered, done biometrics, gone through an application, a vetting process to apply for a visa or a green card. Okay? So, and if you're over 14 years of age, basically anybody who's undocumented in the U.S. who's over 14 is going to be required, if this program goes through, is going to be required to fill out a form and formally register with the government. Okay? So who is not required to do this? Okay? Who's not required? Anybody that entered with an I-94. So if you, when you come in through the airport or when you actually pass through customs on your arrival, you're given an I-94. People who were paroled into the U.S., people who were admitted on immigrant or non-immigrant visas, right? All those folks were given I-94s. Certain people who have already, all lawful permanent residents, right? Anyone who's a green card holder does not need to do this. Anyone who was given a employment authorization document, right? Anyone that has a work permit does not need to go through this or worry about this. Anyone who's currently in immigration court, if you have received a notice to appear to immigration court, right? That they don't have to worry about this because they have to comply with biometrics requirements through that process. And they're already on immigration's radar, all right? And so, and there are a few other categories, border crossing cards, people that received orders to show cause before before notices to appear became a thing, before 1996, the passage of IRA, they used to call it an order to show cause. There are some other requirements of folks. Basically, if you have already been on immigration's radar and you've already gotten biometrics and you've already gone through a formal process for that, then you should not need to do this process, okay? So, so that's happening now, and to be clear, it's been announced. That's the way I should say it. It is not actually happening yet. And so people need to know, right, if just because you might be subject to this, first of all, it might be challenged in courts. I'm not recommending that anybody goes through with this right now, all right? Don't fill out any forms yet, etc. Even on the USCIS website, they're saying how to register. There is no process yet, right? It says that DHS will soon announce a form and a process to do this requirement. And so anyway, that's the news. That's the news. That's the situation. for me, it's like, man, it's a dark time, right? It's a dark time, and I'm sorry that it's happening. But my goal is to give people information, give people advice, and to fight people's cases. And so, if you're eligible for a green card, or if you're eligible for a visa, it's like going through that process means that you don't have to go through this process, right? And so, at least for the time being, until we have further information, etc. And so, yeah, if there's anything that our office could do to help you, please feel free to reach out. We're here to help. We'd love to help. Okay? So I do have some questions coming in. So if you have questions, please feel free to submit your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them right here, right now. Okay? So my first question is here. It says, let's see, user 885. All right, you say, I've got a kid in the Air Force. How long would it take to get parole? Okay, all right. And so if you have a kid who's in the United States military, you can apply, you can have your child apply for parole in place for you, which is an enormous benefit, right? You can get paroled in the United States without having to leave. And so how long will it take? That's a really good question. It's actually impossible to answer. The current processing times for parole in place, I would estimate that it'll take 1.5 to 2 years. Okay? That's my estimate, all right? Just because we've done this type of case for several clients in the past, and it takes a while, all right? It's not a fast requirement, and it's not a fast type of case. It's not one of the case types that is kind of prioritized within the government, unfortunately. And so, it takes right now 1.5 years. In fact, the Trump administration, and we've seen this from Republicans, that they want to do away with parole in place. And so that's something that you want to be aware of. You might be well advised. First of all, talk to a lawyer first before submitting that application, just to make sure that it is a good application to submit, right? But that's the time estimate, I would say, 1.5 years or so. All right, user 0875, do you think it's safe to travel on advanced parole right now? As long as you have a well-done, well-documented, approved, unexpired parole document, we have not seen issues re-entering the country with advanced parole documents. Okay? So, and to know about your specific situation, there are risks. There's always risks of traveling on advanced parole, so it is wise to talk with your immigration attorney, right, before you travel, just to make sure that your situation doesn't pose any special, if you've ever been arrested, or if there was a problem with your underlying case, or there are certain situations where it is risky for a person to leave the U.S., even with an approved travel document. Okay? So that. Zazu, thank you for making it all legal. All right. I don't know if you're thanking me, but you're welcome to the extent that I can, right? We are here to fight to help people navigate the immigration system so that they can legalize their immigration status, right? That is what immigration lawyers are here to do. Beck R. Hode, hello. What if you started an I-130 in September and you're still waiting? So an I-130, good question. An I-130 does not grant you an immigration benefit, okay? An I-130 is the petition of your U.S. citizen, spouse, parent, son, daughter, or sibling, okay? And so it's their petition for you. It's not your application for a benefit. And so if your question is, will you still need to register under these new things with an I-130 pending? The answer would be yes, if you were never admitted in the past, right? So having an I-130 pending in your name is not one of the categories that has registration being like that is an exception to the registration stuff. But there's a lot that needs to happen before this registration stuff actually goes into effect, right? So anyway, that's that. But thank you for asking that question. You're not alone with that question. There's a lot of people that are wondering the same thing. So thank you for asking it. Let's see, Alexander, I see you here on Instagram. You say, hello, sir, long time no see. I'm in the ROTC and on a MOS military intelligence track. Very cool. And I plan on doing law school after my 4 years. Any advice? I mean, good for you. Good for you, man. Good for you. It sounds like you've got good things in your future. And so, you know, are you specifically wondering for like professional advice or for immigration-related advice or, you know, professional advice? I'd say try as many things as you can try. If you're about to enter law school, like when you're in law school, I would really do as many internships and get as much experience that's like practical experience as you can, because it helps you figure out what will suit you as a career, and it's a good way to have kind of a broad understanding of how the law works in different areas. Yeah, take advantage. You know, I did 5 different internships when I was in law school, and yeah, I would. Anyway, I really recommend going out there and being open to as many different areas of the law as you can, and that's my response there. So yeah, Beck R. Hode, I see your thing. Like, thank you for what you're saying. So you mean for the alien registration stuff? So yes, an I-130 is not an exception to that. And so if that whole thing goes through, then yes, you would still need to comply with that, right, in theory. And I'm not recommending that you do that. To be clear, I'm not recommending that anyone does that until we hear more, learn more, see what really happens. There might be legal challenges. Like this is an awful, in my opinion, an awful program. And so yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. It's just brand new, right? And so stay tuned, I guess. But it is awful, and we got to stay together and figure out ways to strategize around it whenever possible. Okay? So let's see. Yanni Gonsalves, I see your question here. USCIS says that an I-130A for a Venezuelan with parole and TPS are paused. Can we send the I-130A anyway? So the I-130A, that's what your question says. The I-130A is with a petition. It's not a Venezuelan parole thing. I think you might be confused, and you might be talking about the I-131 process or the I-131A application for parole, which, yes, they are no longer doing, right? And TPS, they're looking to rescind Venezuelan TPS, right, along with Haitian TPS, right? So we're going to be tracking what happens with TPS in the upcoming weeks and months. But I think that your question might be slightly confused, all right? You're talking about the I-131A. I would say it's not worth submitting that particular form and will be rejected, right? They're not receiving those forms right now. All right, Susanna, can an adult citizen help his adult sibling gain U.S. status? Yes, you can file an I-130, but that petition takes years and years and years, and whether or not your sibling will be able to utilize that petition at some point in the future will depend on many things in the law. Will depend on whether or not your sibling is currently in valid immigration status, or if they're eligible for a waiver, or it'll depend on lots of different factors. And so, Susanna, you're asking a great question. You might be advised to talk with a lawyer about your situation to see whether or not it's a good strategy for your sibling. Like really, it would need to be a consultation for your sibling, right? But if you want to be in that consultation and really learn about whether the benefits of submitting that petition, then yes, right? And I like to submit that type of petition, even though it's going to take years and years and years, because you never know what might happen in the law in the next 20, 30 years, right? You never know. But sibling petitions right now are taking that long. Okay? All right, Jesse A. My permanent residence is expired for years. Can I still renew it? That depends. All right, that depends. The question is, are you still residing in the United States? All right, are you watching me right now from inside the U.S.? And have you ever, like, was your permanent residence, your green card, was it a 10-year valid green card, or was it a quote-unquote conditional permanent residence? Because if it was conditional, and if you didn't renew or remove the conditions from your green card, then that can cause a problem. But otherwise, the thing to know normally is that just because a person's permanent resident card expires doesn't mean that a person's permanent resident status expires. And so yes, technically, if a person has valid permanent residence with a permanent green card for 10 years, and that card has expired, then yes, even after it expired, you can still request a renewal of that card. All right? So Jesse A., my answer is probably yes, but you should talk to a lawyer first just to make sure that that's the best strategy in your case, and you can do it. I have had clients come in after filing a green card renewal where the filing of that triggered them to be put into removal proceedings. And so you don't want that, right? And typically that only happens when there's a criminal history that for some reason was overlooked originally, all right? And sometimes that can happen, right? Or when there's allegations that a person abandoned their residence or that there was some kind of problem with their residence. Anyway, those are things to think about. All right, Crazy Carlos, I see your question here. Can someone with a low-level felony from 15 years ago and been in the U.S. since they were 5 months old, can they, you didn't finish your question, or at least I don't see the rest of it here. I'm not seeing it right now. Let's see here. Can they apply for something? Not sure what you're specifically wanting to apply for, Crazy Carlos 7. But here's the thing, you know, felony convictions, any criminal record, we've got to look into the criminal record. And we got to request the records, we got to look at it carefully, we've got to really do a legal analysis for you to see what options you'll be eligible for despite that record. Okay? Anytime there's an arrest history, it makes a case slightly more complicated depending on what that conviction record was. All right? And felony, misdemeanor, they both cause additional complications. And so the best advice is to really look it over carefully. Feel free to contact our office if you're looking for an attorney. We're here to help, and we could do that. Okay? User 2412, you say, is it safe to travel on advanced parole travel documents marked base? Marked base. I don't know what that refers to. Is it safe to travel on advanced parole? So, yes, for the most part. There are some exceptions to that where it's risky to leave. I mean, traveling on advanced parole always has some risks. The best advice is to talk it over with your lawyer before deciding whether or not to depart the U.S. And our office has had clients leave and re-enter on advanced parole even right now, even under the Trump administration, without problems. All right, like it is still possible to depart the U.S. and re-enter with valid travel documents. Just make sure that you're in a situation where you're okay to do that. Okay? Everybody that's tuning in right now, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding immigration attorney at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C. We're a law firm in Oakland, California. We fight for the rights of immigrants here in the United States, all right? And so thank you for being here and welcome. Right now I'm answering a bunch of questions, and I'll need to wrap up in about 10 more minutes, and I'll do this same episode in Spanish. So if you speak Spanish, feel free to join me then as well. And here we are. All right. My next question is from Lamara K. Lamara, thank you so much. You say, instead of spending money on deporting people, it would be wise to make them pay fines and legalize them. You know, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that opinion. Thank you for that suggestion. In the old days, there was a law called 245I, and we still have clients that are protected by 245I or that are beneficiaries under 245I, and that it basically allowed them to do that, right? If somebody had entered the country without permission, they were still eligible to adjust status. They just had to pay a fine for having entered without permission. It was a $1,000 fine. It's like that. For me, that was good policy. For me, that was good policy. Like, I agree with that approach. But anyway, so Lamara K, thank you. Thank you for saying what you've said. All right, Efren Martinez, good morning. I have a question. My father-in-law just left the country to Mexico. He has a green card, or he's a green card holder, but he has 4 DUIs. Will he have trouble coming back in? All right. I'm glad that he has a green card. All right, that's definitely helpful. If he has 4 DUIs, that's a lot. All right, that's a lot. DUIs, if they're simple DUIs, right now a DUI is not considered, it does not cause a quote-unquote inadmissibility when it's by itself, all right? When it doesn't have like aggravating factors, okay? And so there's a lot into that analysis. My guess is he's probably going to be okay. And if he's really nervous, he could talk it over with an immigration lawyer to maximize his chances of not having any trouble. All right, like I hope they weren't DUIs with controlled substances. I hope that nobody was injured during the DUIs. I hope, you know, anyway, but how can I say this? He'll probably be okay, all right? He probably will be okay on his reentry. And if you want a much more precise analysis of that, hey, feel free to give us a call, and we can look at those records and make sure that they don't trigger any inadmissibility or deportability. You know, when there's crimes that cause quote-unquote deportability, all right, and someone has a green card. When somebody has crimes and they have a green card, and if it causes deportability, or if it causes someone to be subject to readmission when they come back in, what happens, or what can happen, is Border Patrol could take away the green card and put a person into removal proceedings and have their case go in front of a judge. All right? And so worst case scenario, that could happen. And if that were to happen, then he would need an immigration lawyer, and he would need to fight for his case. Okay? So that. So Ruby, I see your question here. Can I get a pardon, from inside the U.S. if I entered illegally and had a DWI, married to a citizen, and have kids? So if you entered illegally, then you have to go through, and if you don't have if your children are not in the armed forces, and if you're not eligible for a U visa or VAWA or asylum or something to fix your status in the U.S., then the way to do it would be to have your spouse file a petition for you, then file an I-601A waiver to get a waiver here in the U.S. before traveling. To make sure that you're eligible for that, you would want to talk to a lawyer first. The DWI is not the issue for the I-601A. Oh, it can be an issue at the consulate, all right? But it's not technically an issue at the I-601A. It's not a huge issue, at least. You'll need to address it in some ways at the I-601A for the waiver process, But you really want to make sure that you're otherwise admissible, because the final step of that type of process means leaving the U.S., right? And going through the U.S. consulate overseas so that they put a visa in your passport so that you can be lawfully admitted back to the U.S. and um, and then um, and then become a permanent resident, right? But Ruby, I've got lots of cases that are in that exact same situation. We have won even just this week cases for people that are in that situation, and so it's like we can certainly help you determine whether or not you have a good case and whether or not you're eligible for that process, right? All right. I see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions that I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to let's see, and then I'm gonna wrap up. So people that are asking new questions right now, I'm not going to be able to answer all of them. All right. I'm going to go through Jefferson Sanchez. You're going to be my last question of the day. The next question I'll answer is Go Odd. Go Odd Deals Awesome is your name. Thank you for asking your question. You say, I filed an I-730 for my wife right now at the NVC. Is that good to continue? Or should I file an I-130 if I have my green card? That's a great question. I'm glad that you're already at the NVC stage. Talk to a lawyer to be sure. All right, talk to a lawyer to be sure. It depends on when you filed the I-730, when you got your green card, etc. You have to file the I-730 within 2 years of getting asylum. But, the fact that you're already at the NVC is a good sign, right? If you started over with a new I-130 now, that would take 2 or 3 years right now is what it takes for a green card holder to get their I-130 approved so that it can go to the NVC. And so I'd hate to have you start all the way over. Talk to a lawyer to make sure that your I-730 is in good standing and well done, etc., and then you should be okay to move forward with it. Okay? La Pura Vida 26. All right. What about Salvadorian TPS? Are they renewing it after extending it last year? I have seen no announcements yet about Salvadorian TPS. All right. So that's that. But we all know that the Trump administration attempted to terminate Salvadorian TPS under the first administration. So we're going to see what happens there. Okay. Sasi Fashi. All right. El Topo is more expensive if getting into deportation proceedings and in custody. All right. So yes, so an attorney is worth the money. I mean, I agree with you. The costs once somebody's detained or once somebody is in removal proceedings, it goes up dramatically, right? And so if there's a way to fix your immigration case from the beginning affirmatively in front of USCIS, you're right, it is much less expensive if we do it the right way, get it approved from the outset so that we don't have to fight about it in immigration court, 100%, okay? Alejandra Valentin, does the priority date on NVC cases matter when scheduling consular interviews? No, all right, because the priority date has to be current before you're even at that stage. All right, the priority date must be current before you'll even be scheduled for your consular interview. All right, does that make sense? In other words, like your priority date has to be current before you can even ask that question. Once it's current, then now you worry about scheduling the consular interview, right? And so, and then at that stage, now you're just worried about how long is the backlog to get that interview, right? Anyway, I hope that's clear. Crazy Carlos, you say it was for a felony for leaving the scene of an accident, but I will have that person contact you guys. Okay, yeah, let's look at it. Let's look at it, and we can do the analysis, and we can see what is going to be the best advice for that person. All right, Jefferson Sanchez, and then we'll wrap up. All right. So Jefferson Sanchez, you say, I have question mark, an I-130 approved. I'm waiting for an I-601A. I don't have any else. My immigration court was dismissed. I still have a chance to be deported to my country. I'm glad that you have an I-130 approved. Looks like you're waiting for your I-601A. I'm glad that your immigration court case was dismissed. It sounds like you're going through the right steps, okay? Sounds like you're going through the right steps, like good job. And so there it's like, you know, could you still be deported to your country? Well, if your immigration court case was dismissed, the only way to deport you would be to send you back, reopen your immigration court case, which I doubt that they would do that, right? But to know whether or not your case would be approved at the consulate, that's a very different, that would require a consultation and a much deeper analysis, right? Okay, Christopher Carbajal, I see you. Hello, great to see you there. Aneka, how do you guys prepare your client for an interview on a marriage-based green card? Practice. Prepare, prepare, prepare. You know, how did you guys meet? Where did you guys meet? How did you fall in love? Make sure that your relationship is bona fide. Go through all the questions that were submitted in your form. Make sure that they're still accurate. Any updates that need to be, make sure to note them down. Tell them to the officer. Be prepared to explain them to the officer. Just that. Practice, practice. All right. Excellent 47. My stepson has an interview on an I-45 and an I-130 next week. It's similar to what I just said with the other question. Practice, go through the forms. Have a lawyer go with you to your interview is my best advice, folks. All right. A.C.K, can I apply for a visitor visa to enter the U.S. when my green card is in process through a labor certificate? Yes, but it'll likely be denied, right? Visitor visas outside the country while you're going through another process, they're hard to get, right? It's hard to predict. But good luck with it. You know, it doesn't mean you can't apply. Just be honest when you apply for it. All my friends here on Instagram, Arejo, hello, and Merchant, hello, and Richard Ortiz, hello, and Romnav Arm, hello, and Mauratovo, hello. Great to see you all. Everybody on TikTok, hello. Ashley, Roberto. I asked my question at the beginning. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know what happened to it. I didn't see it. Yeah, sometimes the questions come in so fast. I don't see it right now. Anyway, I can go back and look at questions, but I can't see them all. But hello, Leonardo. Hello. I see lots of friends here on TikTok. Thank you all so much. Everybody on YouTube, thank you all so much. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate each of you. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. If you speak Spanish, feel free to join me in Spanish in just a few moments. Until then, you know, let's make it a great day. Let's stay in communication. If this information was useful, please subscribe to our content. Please subscribe to our channel in YouTube. When you do that, hit the notifications bell also, and you can be notified when we upload an additional video with updates and news and things of that nature. Yeah, that's all I got, folks. That's all I got, you know. If it's a dark time out in the world, hey, let's us be the light. Should I say that again? If it's a dark time out in the world, let's us be the light. Let's be the light. All right? I'll leave you with that. Thanks a lot, everybody. Make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.